This is the book of Deuteronomy 33 and 29. Happy art thou, O Israel, who is like unto thee, O people saved by the Lord, the shield of thy help, and who is the sword of thy excellency. And thy enemies shall be found liars unto thee, and thou shalt tread upon their high places. Call all Yahweh Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rachach Kodash. Double honors to our elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, who rule and teach well. Peace, love, and salutations to those that are doing this work in truth and sincerity. This is your brother Nathaniel coming back at through the Spirit with another lesson. I pray and hope this lesson is edifying. And, I came across this video from this guy right here. Is Jorgit the Vanguard, or George the Vanguard, right? And, things that the men of the Great Millstone have been teaching for a long time, you're starting to see this knowledge and this truth break away in different forms, and you're getting other information that's coming out to prove that the history of the so-called white man, Esau Edom, has been nothing more than a fabrication and a fable. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and play the video, and we're gonna bring out some precepts and chime in here and there. But without further ado,
always been lying. Europeans have always been liars. This isn't about lying in the ordinary sense. This is about fabricating entire realities, legal, theological, cartographic, then killing anyone who didn't believe them. Europeans called the world undiscovered while standing on thriving civilizations. The Apache didn't need maps to know their land. They knew where the water rose in spring, where the antelope migrated, and where a single footprint meant a traveler passed 4 hours earlier. Meanwhile, Europeans drew maps where entire continents were labeled as terra nullius, nobody's land, to justify stealing things they could never understand. To this day, land acknowledgments are needed because the truth was so systemically buried. Between 1600 and 1900, the U.S. signed over 500 treaties with indigenous nations, every single one broken, ignored, or reinterpreted.
all right. So we're gonna go to the book of Psalms, Psalms 55 and 20, and it says, "He hath put forth his hand against such as be at peace with him. He has broken his covenant." You see? So, as he said they broke every treaty that they had. He came over here to this land, they put forth their hand, they showed them, how to live off the land, how to work the land. And what these devils do, they turn around and they kill them and steal the land. All right. And that goes into the Ecclesiasticus. Was it was Ecclesiasticus? Let's see, where's it at? We'll come back to it in just a second. I got to figure out where that's at. Ecclesiasticus 12 and 10. And it says, "Never trust thine enemy." Okay. "For like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness." Okay. So we know anything about iron. Once iron is oxygenated, which means basically if it's exposed to the air, it's going to rust. Okay. You don't need to put water on it. You don't need to put anything. It just iron, just put out in the air and it's going to rust, because the air oxygenates the iron, which creates iron oxide, which is basically rust. Okay. And even if you take a grinder and you sand all that rust off and make it nice and shiny, if you leave it exposed to the air, guess what? It's going to rust. Okay. Period. So with the so-called white man, right? You can put him in a good situation, You can give him a good life and everything that he wants, everything that he needs and everything that he wants. And guess what? It's not enough. He's still going to do wickedness. It don't matter if you take him from it. It's in him. Okay? You ever heard that old saying, you can take the man out, the nigga out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the nigga? Well, that's how it is with Esau. You can take Esau out of a wicked environment, but you can't take the wickedness out of Esau. Okay? So he's, no matter what you do, that wickedness is going to return. That's why you're never supposed to trust this dude. Okay? Now I'm going to continue on. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be on to him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass. And thou shalt know that his rust hath not altogether been wiped away. He can't get rid of the wickedness. Okay? All right? So this is what the Native Americans did, right? It says, set him not by thee. Right? That's what they did. They allowed these devils to come into their land, and they raised them up and taught them what to do. Right? It says, when he have overthrown thee, he will stand up in thy place. Isn't that exactly what happened? He overthrew the Native Americans and took their land. Right? Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat, and thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith. All right. So you can't trust these people. I went to a baseball game today, and I was just, I was watching, like all of the sacred things that, like the tomahawk, for instance, because I was at a Braves game, right? The tomahawk is actually a sacred thing. That's not just something to be made fun of. That's a sacred thing, and they're making fun of it, right? And it just got me to thinking, this devil doesn't hold anything sacred. There's nothing sacred to him. There's nothing that has that honor, that tradition to be honored. There's nothing, he will let it go. He would destroy it. He would take it. He would steal it, and he would demean it and debase it and turn it into something commercialized. Right? That's what this devil does. Okay. So, so he takes the culture from people, and then he demeans your culture. He debases your culture. I'm watching all of these Edomites, hatch, do the little hatchet thing, because I don't really do baseball. I don't go to baseball games, but I'm watching them do the little hatchet thing. And I'm thinking to myself, like, dang, I was just reading about the Native American warriors and how, when they went off to war, they would get a certain number of feathers or whatever to show, how many enemies they were able to fend off or kill or whatever to protect their homes and their children. So, those feathers is a very sacred thing, and their weapons of choice, a lot of them was a tomahawk, right? So you take that and that's something that's very sacred to them, and you turn it into a game. This is what the Esau Edom does, a little side note. All right. So I'm going to go back to this video.
The Apache relied on honor-based diplomacy. Truth?
Honor-based diplomacy. This devil ain't got no honor. Okay? He's the wicked. He ain't got no honor. So you got that's what the scripture says. What does the throne of righteousness has to do with the throne of wickedness? Oh, you know what? I got a precept. It just came to mind. Just a quick one, I just came to mind through the spirit. This is Psalms 50. This is Psalms 50 and 16. It says, but unto the wicked, say it, But unto the wicked Yahweh said, What hast thou to do? What hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest taketh my covenant into thy mouth, seeing thou hatest instruction and casteth my words behind thee? Right? So that moral high ground that you have, that morality, that comes through the Lord. That comes through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Now, of course, they try to display it on certain levels, right? But at the end of the day, these dudes are wicked, and these people are wicked, and just the way that they move is completely different than Jake. So you can't expect these people who are genetically predisposed to be the wicked. You can't expect them to do good. It's not in them to do that. Okay. This is why they have a whole history of nothing but lies.
Was action, not paper. If a promise was made, it was backed by kinship obligation, not loophole-ridden documents. European.
And that's exactly another one. Book of Daniel. Book of Daniel 8 and 25. And it reads, And through his policies also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart. By peace he shall destroy many. And that's exactly what this dude's modus apparatus is. He's always coming in the name of peace. I'm coming in the name of help, right? But then he's putting all this legislation into place to block the indigenous people of the land from using their own resources, while it gives him 100% access to it. Then he oppresses the nation and oppresses a man in his heritage, as it says in the book of Jeremiah. Okay? All right, so let's play a little bit more of this.
On the other hand, wrote treaties in foreign languages, imposed deadlines impossible to meet, and used delay as a tactic of dispossession. A document in Latin isn't truth. It's just a spell of empire. The Catholic Church claimed it held the truth of God, then used that to justify genocide, rape, and forced conversion. The doctrine of discovery, papal bulls of 1452 and 1493, told Europeans they could take any land not ruled by Christians. Meanwhile, Apache cosmology didn't separate truth from ecology. To lie about the land was to break harmony with it, a crime not just against humans, but against the earth itself. Europeans burned libraries, retranslated Bibles to suit monarchs, erased oral traditions because they couldn't control a truth that wasn't written down. The so-called European Age of Enlightenment was founded on stealing, distorting, and rebranding global knowledge. They denied the circulation of blood until Harvey said it, though it was already known in Yoruba, Chinese, and Ayurvedic medicine. They claimed to invent inoculation, while Ottoman women, West African healers, and Quechua shamans had practiced it for centuries. The Apache knew the uses of over 500 plants in their region, while Europeans were still bleeding people to balance humors. Truth for Europeans was never about accuracy. It was about authority. When the U.S. government began counting Apache people, they counted full-bloodedness by phenotype, then altered that to strip land claims. The census became a lie told with numbers, not to describe a people, but to erase them bureaucratically. In Apache oral memory, you are who you walk with, not what fraction a settler writes on a form. Europeans, by contrast, invented truth that only existed on paper and killed to enforce it. The British called their empire free, while running the largest human trafficking operation in history. The French said liberté, while massacring Algerians. burning villages and beheading resistance fighters. The Americans spoke of freedom while starving the Apache, exiling Geronimo, and kidnapping children for boarding schools. The lie was never just spoken. It was weaponized, wrapped in law, dressed in velvet, then dropped like a guillotine. The Apache didn't need lawyers to tell the truth. They lived it. Europeans needed courts, wigs, chains, and ink, because their truth was never real. It was always written, reworded, and revised to maintain control. So when people ask why we don't trust the system, it's because the system was built by people who'd never told the truth a day in their history. Cope. European.
Exactly. And they're still lying to this very day. Okay? I'm going to the book of Micah 2:1. And it says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. Okay, so these people, they sit here and they think about how they can do evil shit to you on a day-to-day basis. Hell, they do evil to their own people. Okay, let alone you. It says, and they covet fields and take them by violence. He just went through a whole a list of things that these people have done, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. And this iceberg goes deep. Okay, all of the lands that they raped, robbed, and pillaged, and all of the lives that they've taken in the name of their Christianity and their Jesus, you know, under the doctrine of discovery, you know, going around, and then they created this fictional system. That's what we live in. That's what this whole system is under. We're under a fictional system. You know, when you look at your license, that's a corporation. So in order to steal everything from everybody, he had to create a fictional system and then get everybody to agree to it. So even though he don't own none of the land, he don't own none of nothing, right? Because the people are under this corporation, this corporatocracy, right? Because they're under it and they signed up for it, it gives him control over everything. And now he's frantically looking. He's frantically trying to complete this last little piece of the puzzle to try to make his fictional system a reality that'll be perpetuated forever through the MOTB. Okay? I'm going to read that again. This is Micah 2:2, and it says, and they covet fields and take them by violence, and the house and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. So then he, like he said, they go into these places. They'll steal the land, you know. Then they'll steal the culture. They'll take the man's culture, and then all of a sudden, they're the people. They've been in that land for generations after they killed off the indigenous people, right? This is his MO. You know, you're South African, but you're an Edomite. Y'all ain't even from that region. How the hell you get over there? You went over there and you stole the land from the people that are there. And then you do this thing called apartheid to make it to where they don't have access to the land that their ancestors been on for thousands of years. Okay? This is why your punishment is going to be so grievous, man, because of all of the evil you've done. I'm going to continue on to verse 4. It says, in that day, one shall take a parable against you, a lamentation, and lament with a doleful lamentation. And you're going to be crying yourself out to the bone and say, we be utterly spoiled. Utterly spoiled. You're going to get everything taken away. You're going to get the rug snatched up from up under you. And it's just going to be dust up under you. Okay? And it says, he had changed the portion of my people. How have he removed it from me? I don't think that's not what I wanted. Okay. No, that goes into something else, Salakia. All right, so I'm gonna grab another precept in the book of the book of Habakkuk. And then there was that book of Psalms. As a matter of fact, before I bring out, let me go back to the book of Psalms 55. Yeah. So I'm gonna start with verse 20 again because I meant to finish that out. This is 55 and 20. Psalms 55 and 20 says that he had put forth his hand against such as be at peace with him. He has broken his covenant. The words of it, and this goes into the Ecclesiasticus 12, the looking glass. Okay, the rust. Though the words of his mouth be smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords. And, that's him. Don't let him sit by you because he got that covetous spirit. He's looking at what you got and he want what you got. He got what he got, but he want what you got. And then he want to put you down. Like what kind of insidious being is that? Where you just want to take somebody else's shit just because, And that's just exactly why you don't never trust them people. These people are your enemy. Okay? And the whole entire system was built on nothing but a perpetual lie. And that's it. It was built on a perpetual lie. All right? And because of that, those lies are starting to come out. And the rest of the world are starting to see. I'm gonna go to 15. I'm read Habakkuk 2 and 4. It says, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith, because this dude is twisted, he's evil. All right. Yea, also because he transgressed by wine. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell, and it is as death, and cannot be satisfied. And see, this is when you go into the mark of Cain, right? Cain, the scripture said that the ground, the earth would not bring forth his strength, and Esau inherited that mark of Cain, right? So Esau needs to bring all of these other nations to him because he can't grow food in abundance because the earth will not bring forth its strength to bring those crops out. This is why he got to use all these chemicals and pesticides and things of that nature. And then he also has to get food shipped from other nations because the ground will not create the yields for him. All right. According to the scriptures. Right. So he has to create a melting pot where he controls all nations because he can't do shit. Esau's the bottom of the barrel. Esau can't make nothing, can't create nothing. He's only a pariah. He's only a parasite. He only can take from what's already established, and then he'd call that his. Okay, so he needs to bring all these other nations and put them under his belt because Israel is scattered under all the nations. So he's going to heap all peoples to him because he wants the Israelites under his control. Okay, because all of that gift, that talent, he wants to be able to use that for his purpose so he can call himself God. Okay. It says, who enlarges his desire as hell and is as death and cannot be satisfied. See, this devil is as death. Wicked ass nigga, man. But gather unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people. Okay. Verse 6, it says, shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him and say, woe to him that increases that which is not his. How long? And to him that laden himself with thick clay. And thick clay goes into death. And just on the side note, this goddamn devil who owes hundreds of trillions of dollars, it's up there. Maybe not hundreds of trillions, but I know it's up there. Has the audacity to sit here and say that he's going to collect all debts, owed student loan debts, owed to the U.S. government. He's going to put all that into collections and he's going to start garnishing people's wages. See, this goes into the wickedness of this devil. This devil you got other countries like Niger, right, who are putting their people. They just got everything set up to where their people go to school for free. They got it set up to where their people get free health care. And now they're about to have it set up to where their people get free housing. Okay? Because a government is supposed to be established to take care of its people, right? This government has been established to oppress its people. All right? This evil ass government. This is why everywhere it goes, it oppresses the people every land that it goes to it oppresses the people. And it what my man the president of Nigeria, they tried to assassinate my man 19 times. And then they said that he told them, he said, man, listen, if the US and France don't leave me alone, we're gonna talk to Russia and have Putin come over to Nigeria and have him install a bunch of nuclear weapons. And allegedly they stopped bothering him for now. Okay. So this just goes to show you. And the only reason why is because, in order for European nations to stay in power, the dark nations, the black nations, the so-called black nations, they have to stay impoverished. Okay. Because the lands that Esau is, the European land, that's a barren land. Okay. It's the bottomless pit. America has resources, but they pretty much destroyed America. But those other nations like Africa and Australia, with all of this mineral rich land, right? They go over there to those lands, especially Africa, to steal their minerals. All right. But Africa not doing it no more. They want to process their own ore. They want to process their own minerals. OK, that's what Africa wants to do. So what do they do in response? They start sending threats because Esau wants to have access to those minerals. Why should these Hamites have access to the minerals that are on their land? This is the mindset of this damn devil. Okay? And it's all for profit. And look at what his mindset is doing to the earth. How it's destroying everything. It's a fucking liar, man. Okay. Now I'm gonna scroll down a little bit. To verse 16, because this is the thing, okay, that the world is starting to experience now. They're going back, when you go back to this video, they're going through the history and they're saying, okay, the receipts that you given, hey, them receipts ain't correct. Them are all fabricated. Okay, these are lies. All right, because when you go back and you get the real receipts, right, it's shameful. And I'm gonna close out with this. Go ahead and wrap it up. This is Habakkuk 2:16, and it reads, "Thou art filled with shame for glory." So you lie, you rape, rob, murder, and pillage, and oppress the other nations, right? And it says, "And let thy foreskin be uncovered." Right before the Lord destroys, and if you look at how this is written, you see that where it says, "Let that foreskin uncover," it goes into that covering cast being revealed over all the nations. So all the other nations are seeing this devil for who he really is. Okay. So it says that the Lord said that he will remove the covering cast, the veil. Right. So that's what's happening. So, that's the same as his foreskin being uncovered. He's being revealed. All right. Then what's going to happen next? Right. See the semicolon there. This is what's going to happen. The cup of the Lord's right hand, who's on the right hand of the Lord, Yahweh Shai, shall be turned onto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. Here you go, right here, which I believe this dude to be a Jake, okay? Because he going in on Esau too hard, and he has his channel is all he does is go into Esau's fraudulent history, all right? So, yeah, shame, and it should be shameful spewing on that glory. So, hey, the world is seeing his history. They're seeing the type of man this dude is, and they don't like him, no. They don't like him. All right? And it's because Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai has revealed this guy. So now what's going to happen is Yahweh Shai is going to come back, and he's going to put this dude in his place. And that's about to happen real soon, okay? Because the first thing that the Lord does is he reveals that, hey, you are a liar. Going back to Deuteronomy 33 and 29, it says, and I'm gonna just I'm gonna read the ending part of it. It says, "And thy enemy shall be found liars unto thee, and thou shalt tread on their high places." You see, we have found that all of his glory has been a lie. All right. And we've been saying it, but the Lord has put the spirit, okay, on the earth for everyone else to see it too. So with that, I'm gonna end it off by giving all praise and glory and honor to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Kal Kadash, double honors to the elders and the apostles. Until the next time, may say Shalom.